Welcome to Hindi reading class 4A. Today, as you can see, we'll only be discussing two consonants, but that will be more than enough. So let's move ahead. So now we're going to introduce you to your new Hindi tutors. Mrs. Left and Mr. Right. So these will be your new Hindi tutors. So place your hands over your mouth for the following exercises about 1 to 2 inches away from your mouth and say the following word with your hand over your mouth. Cup, cup, right? Now, what did you feel on your hand when you said the C in cup? Did you feel anything? You should have. Now, say the following words with your hand over your mouth again, 1 or so inches away from your mouth, and say the following words: kill, keep, cool, cake, cat, call, cold. Now, what did you feel on your hand when you said the K and C's at the beginning of these words? Did you feel anything? You should have. And so now, with your hand over your mouth again, say these words: skull, skill, scheme, school, skate, scold, scald. Now, when you said the CH or K, the CHC or K at the beginning of these words after the S, did you feel something on your hand? Now, what's the difference? You should have felt a difference between these K and C sounds and these K and C CH sounds. What was that difference? Now, if you're a native English speaker, you should have felt a rush of air on the first set of words. Kill, keep, cool, cake, cat. You should have felt a big rush of air on your hand when you said K and C at the beginning of these words. Whereas this set of words, for the K and C after the S, you should have felt no air or very, very, very little air. Right? So, rush of air, no air. And this rush of air that you can hear as well is what we're going to call aspiration. All it is a bunch of air coming out of your mouth, and that is called aspiration. So imagine for a second that we lived in a world where we had a letter for the K sound without any air, without aspiration, G, and a letter for the K sound with aspiration, with lots of air, K, and cat with air meant, eh, and cat with no air meant bottled water. Mm. And then you went to the restaurant and asked for cat. Ugh, it's not going to be a good dinner. So, this situation, this exact situation, actually exists in Hindi. Whereas we see this symbol here is a similar sound at the beginning of these words. Kill, keep, cool, cake, cat, call, cold. Lots of air come out of your mouth at the very same time the K and C at the beginning of these words is said. Lots of air. So this letter is like the K in kite. Lots of air plus the sound. Whereas the second sound, this ka, is similar to the sound in English skull, skill, scheme, school, skate, scold, scald, meaning no air. No air should be felt on the hand when saying those K and C C H sounds. No air. Can't get out. You blocked it all in. So that's this letter. It's the K in skate. No air should be felt on the hand. Plus a. And so here's the problem is that because you don't really think about when you're saying ka and when you're saying ka, both hearing and speaking them is going to take hard work on your point. Now, there is no substitute here for hard work. There's no fast track training. There's no special like vitamins that you can take to do this. It takes hard work. But you have the advantage is that you can practice and you don't have to hear it. And we're going to talk about that in a few seconds. So let's practice hearing them and let's just see if you can hear it first. Because this is an important step. You might not be able to hear it very well now, but it's important to start trying. So, number one, ga. Number two, ka. 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 Did you hear it? Number one, no air, ga. Number two, lots of air, ka. So because your ears are not really attuned to hearing the difference right now, you might be able to hear it. It might be a little bit difficult right now. And there is one and only one way to learn to say both aspirated and non-aspirated letters in Hindi properly. Do you know what that way is? Have you figured it out yet? If you can't hear it, how else can we do it? Utilize your Hindi tutors, Mrs. Lefty and Mr. Right. So your hands. So from now on, every time, every time you say a Hindi word in this class and by yourself, your palm should be 1 inch away from your mouth. And so that way you can feel the difference, even if you can't hear it. So this is gonna do is it's gonna accelerate your ability to speak Hindi properly. Because if you had to hear it first, like babies do, this would take quite some time. But because you can feel it, even if you can't yet hear it, you can train your body what to do. And so hopefully you'll be able to correct yourself and correct what you're saying, what's coming out of your mouth, without the need to hire a guru. You don't want to spend that kind of money. So, ka, the one without ear, is going to be the harder of the two for an English speaker to get because you're only used to saying ka with no ear after other letters, like after S in skate, or school, or skill, skate, school, skill, skate. So this is when you're usually used to saying it with no ear. Now, Some of you, if you do feel air after the K in S, then just know that this guy here is talking about the K with no air. All right, so how can we practice beginning to say this if you can't do it initially? So one method is start out by saying skull. And when you put your hand over your mouth, you shouldn't feel any air right when you say the K in skull. Now, if you do feel air, then you can't really use this method. So you might want to use the second method, which we'll talk about. Now, start saying skull over and over and over. Skull, 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 skull. And as you're doing that, try to focus and figure out what your tongue is doing, what's it doing in the back of your throat. Try to figure out what your throat is doing, what your lungs are doing, and what your stomach muscles are doing. How is it different than when you say kill or cool? How is your body behaving differently? Skull, skull, kill, skull, skull. And so try to isolate that difference. And then, as you're saying this, eventually try to drop the S without introducing air. So skull, skull. And remember, your hand should be over your mouth about an inch away. Skull, 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 gull, 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 skull, gull, skull, gull, skull, gull, skull. And try to see if you can say the G sound without adding any air in like you're used to doing. Okay, second method, here's an alternative, is start out by saying G. Remember, we learned this letter a while back, and you shouldn't feel any air on your hand when you say this. If you feel air on your hand, then you can't use this method. Start saying G over and over, and as you're doing that, focus on what your tongue is doing in the back of your throat, what your throat is doing, what your lungs are doing. How is it different than when you say kill and cool than when you say ga, 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 ga? You'll notice no air comes out. Now, what your throat is doing, is the exact same basically movement for ga. Now, the only difference is that for ga, your vocal cords vibrate a lot. But for ka, your vocal cords don't really vibrate that much. But the movement that your body has to do, your tongue has to do, your lungs have to do, is going to be basically the same. It's only your throat is not vibrating, your vocal cords. So try to say ga, 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 ga. Focus on what you're doing and try to turn that sound into a K sound without the air. So ga 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 ga. It's very similar, and so hopefully you can change one into the other, and this method will work for you. So the second sound which we talked about is ka. Now this is a K sound like in cup and it has a lot of air. So for this, it should come fairly naturally for an English speaker because you're used to saying this all the time. You just relax your throat a little bit more to let more air out. So for most people, it's going to have just a little bit more air than in English. Some it might not, but so ka, 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 ka. You shouldn't really have to force it like you're choking, like right? So it'll feel pretty natural. Just a little bit more air, ka, 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 and you'll feel a lot of air come out on your hand. So what? This is for a little bit of clarification here. So when we talk about aspiration and we're talking about air coming out of the throat, then we're talking about the air that comes out at the very exact instant that you say this K sound. The very exact instant, not a moment before, and not a moment after. So right when you say it, school, sakoon, right there, right there, sakoon, no air comes out. Sakoon, school, no air, right that moment, school, no air came out. And so the reason we have to say this is because sometimes people will measure the air coming out with the ooh, right? Like school. I felt air at the ooh. So we're not talking about that. Only at the very moment you say cool, 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 cool. That very moment you should not feel air on your hand. And that's important to realize is that exact moment because some people also try to separate. Some people say like suckahoon, suckahoon or something like that. So we don't want to do that. We're talking about air at the very same moment. So, right now, if this were a live class, I would tell you to practice this. Practice trying to say ka, practice trying to say ka. But since this is not live, if you choose, you can pause the video here and practice, or not. You can just do it for homework later. And remember, number two, ka has lots of air, and number one, ka has no air. Like you stuffed your mouth, it can't come out. So if you have difficulty doing this, this is normal. So don't get disheartened. Just keep at it, and you will get it. It's kind of like a little kid who is learning how to play a new instrument. It's not going to come overnight. The kid's not going to wake up the next morning and play like some complex concerto. The kid is just worried about getting one note right, two notes right. And that's what you're doing right now. You're learning how to use your throat because you didn't really know how to do this consciously before. Your brain was subconsciously telling you what to do, but now you're going to become aware of what you're doing. And it's going to take effort, and it's going to take practice, and it's going to take time. But keep practicing. Don't give up. Try different things, and you will get it eventually. So now we're going to take a look at how much this can affect the meaning of words. So the first line you'll notice has all the ka sounds with no air, and the second line has the ka sounds with air. So Kali is black, Kali is empty, Khan is air, Khan is a surname, Kal is an age, Kal, Skinner high, Cope, rage, cope, a whole or tail, Kela, banana, Kela, played, Kana, disfigured, Kana, food, Kaka, paternal uncle, Kaka, outline or diagram. Notice that last one actually has both sounds in it. Ka, ka. All right, so second page. Katna, to be spun. You don't know some of these letters yet. Katna, circumcision. Cut, nib. Cut, letter. Cut, cowardly. Cut, to be fastened. Kola, small field. Kola, opened. Kona, corner. Kona, to lose. Kush, sacred grass. Kush, happy. Kodai, jumping. Kodai, digging. Kumar, young man. Kumar, intoxication. Kami, deficiency. kami, crookedness. Kara, to do, to have done something, it's a way of saying it. Kara, genuine and pure. Kar, do it. Kar, one way of saying donkey. Kam, deficient. Come, bend or curve. Kapda, is a cloth. Kapda, a tile. Katai is a reaping. Katai, sourness. Katra, a clipping. Khatra, danger. Now, why did I put 3 pages of differences here? To help convince you that this is very essential in Hindi. It's a huge part of Hindi. And as we go on with lesson B, you will see that this is not the only letter like this. So we're just introducing the concept that there are letters without ear and letters with ear to give you time to practice, to try to learn how to do this, and then keep going with that same principle. But if you don't do this, then you will never pronounce Hindi correctly. And it does affect understanding. It can confuse understanding. And not just confuse understanding, it can make your pronunciation actually annoying to the ear. And you don't want to be annoying to people. So, for homework, we have 5 steps here. So, the first step, practice the ka sound, of course, with your hand about an inch from your mouth until you can consistently say it without feeling air. So you can do it at will. Ka, 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 ka. No air. And now once you can do that, then practice alternating between saying ka with air and without air and ka with air. Your hand, of course, is over your mouth. So you should be able to feel and hear it. Now, the third step is really hearing step. Or actually, yes. So once you can do, you can alternate at will, ka, 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 and you have no problems with that. Ka, 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 ka. Now, practice saying both, but then listen to the difference. Try to figure out, sensitize your ear to the difference between these two. And then, of course, there's writing practice. Try to write each 100 plus times and say each time you write the sound. And of course, where's your hand? Over your mouth. Your tutor has to always be here because your tutor is the only one that will prevent you from thinking that you have it right when you have it wrong. So even I sometimes still refer back to my hand. I refer back to the tutor whenever I'm in doubt. And so every time now, when you practice at home or when you're in the class here, your hand should be over your mouth when you say Hindi words because this becomes a very important part of what we're learning. And so the fifth step, of course, is listen to as much spoken Hindi as possible. But see if you can now tell the difference between ka, unaspirated, and ka, aspirated. Music is great for this because it will be very clear in music. So if you want to check it out, when people say these, see if you can tell the difference to sensitize your ear. Thank you very much for tuning in and be sure to give this lesson a lot of practice, as much as you can until you can get it right. Thank you very much.